Japanese professional wrestling has become all the rage among many pro wrestling fans these days, particularly that of New Japan and Strong Style. However, that is only one part of what wrestling in Japan has to offer, for there is yet another style cut from the very same cloth, and while it may not be as popular in America, it is far greater than it gets credit for. But let's try to change all that, because today, Dave knows Kingsroad style. As previously covered, Japanese pro wrestling all started with a man named Riki Dozen and his promotion, the Japanese Wrestling Association. However, after his untimely demise in 1963, a power vacuum was created. Now this story all comes down to two men, two of the JWA's biggest stars, Antonio Inoki and Shohei Baba, also known as the Giant Baba. Both men trained under Riki Dozen, both wrestled matches for the WWF, and both men even held the NWA International Tag Team Championship together as a team on multiple occasions. But despite all their similarities, it would be some of their differences that would redefine professional wrestling. Because without Riki Dozen's leadership, the JWA's days were numbered, and during this time, Inoki and Baba would begin to disagree on the direction of the JWA and professional wrestling in general. Inoki wanted more strikes, more submissions, and more shoot elements brought into the fold. Shohei disagreed, and as a result of the growing rift between their ideologies, both men would go their separate ways. Inoki would be the first to leave the JWA, moving on to form NJPW and Strong Style. On the other hand, Giant Baba would leave just a few months later in order to form his own promotion, All Japan Pro Wrestling, which was founded on the basis of a new type of wrestling that would be called Kingsroad Style. Now, what exactly is Kingsroad? Well, it's kind of hard to explain, but let's break it down by its components. First, let's continue with the style's history. In the beginning, Kingsroad developed being modeled after American-style pro wrestling, greatly influenced early on by wrestlers such as Terry Funk, Dory Funk Jr., and Harley Race, who all wrestled for the promotion. Now, aside from contributing some of the Funk family style, as well as incorporating a bit of their amateur backgrounds into the mix too, along with Harley Race, the American style of working a match also came into play as well. This resulted in more of a brawling style, which also focused more on worked holds. Oh, and it should be noted that Japanese pro wrestling in general originated from American wrestling in the first place, which was already influenced itself by many other styles, including British wrestling and catch wrestling. Further still, just because you wrestle a particular style, that doesn't mean that you are completely beholden to only doing specific actions, as individuals will bring their own contributions to the discipline, which helps the style to develop even further over time. Now, this can all lead to new styles splintering off from the original, and all this is exactly why things tend to get so confusing. So let's just take a quick moment to reiterate all this. Japanese pro wrestling was birthed from American pro wrestling. From there, it branched off into two different styles. Meanwhile, American wrestling continued to branch off too, including the styles of wrestlers like the Funks and Harley Race, who took their methods to Japan to influence what is now known as Kingsroad style. Okay, now that we got all that out the way, let's clarify things a bit further by comparing Kingsroad to the other side of the Japanese wrestling coin, Strong Style. Because unlike Strong Style, Kingsroad tends to emphasize less on martial arts techniques and strikes, where Strong Style is all about them. Kingsroad also tends to maintain more of a catch-as-catch-can wrestling mentality and less shoot-style wrestling. Strong Style, in contrast, has so much shooting involved because Antonio Inoki really viewed Strong Style as a fighting discipline, capable of going toe-to-toe with legitimate fighting styles like boxing. But this is not to say that toughness is not a major factor of Kingsroad, because it totally is. Historically, Kingsroad matches were much longer. This was seen as testing the endurance of their wrestlers as proof of how tough they were. Kingsroad was more drawn out. However, not everyone liked that, as many New Japan fans criticized the pacing of the AJPW. That is, until Riki Choshu entered the scene. Riki, along with others, helped to evolve Kingsroad to the next level by quickening the pace of the matches. Which is kind of funny, because while Kingsroad began to speed up, Strong Style matches seem to be getting longer. Anyway, another major difference, if not the biggest difference that separates Kingsroad style from many other styles is storytelling, because Kingsroad is every bit a booking method as it is a style of wrestling. Kingsroad is known for having a very thought-out storytelling mentality. Now sure, there have been plenty of All Japan matches, especially in the early days, that told a very common tale of the local hero defeating the foreigner, proving that Japanese fortitude was better than outsider tactics. You see, it's not just the WWE that's Xena-centric. But aside from that, the biggest part of the whole Kingsroad equation is the methodical nature of the storytelling in their matches. Kingsroad takes a very logical approach to things, simulating more legitimate forms of professional wrestling from the early 1900s. This This involved wrestlers feeling each other out, testing each other's reflexes, and looking for weaknesses, which can take a very good long time. Now, this is very interesting from a theatrical psychological aspect, and while this may not be for everyone, there are definitely those who really love how much of a thought process is put into these wrestling matches. And the heavy logic continues on from there, because after throwing quick strikes and fast moves in order to test an opponent's weaknesses, heavier attacks will begin as the wrestlers are targeting the specific areas needed to soften up their opponent for their signature moves and their finisher. And from there, it turns into a fast-paced mad dash to score a victory, with both men firing up their fighting spirit in order to endure, all the while reversing repeatedly, exploiting weaknesses, and making attempts to get their finisher in before someone finally lands it and gets the win. And speaking of finishers, and also continuing with the whole logic approach, there are other coherent storytelling threads that emerge in Kingsroad. And while I do think that finishers should be finishers, I will admit that at least Kingsroad uses finisher reversals and kickouts in a more sensible manner than most. For example, if two wrestlers face off for the first time, one will fall after one finisher. However, if they are facing off for a second time, then the previous loser is now aware of the move. So he'll be able to reverse it because he's waiting for it, since that's the maneuver that already defeated him once. Also, if he manages to get hit with it in subsequent matches, he will now be more resilient towards it on supplementary go-arounds, and therefore it might not be able to put him away again, since he's already built up a tolerance. Oh, and finishers are not quite so absolute in Kingsroad style as they are elsewhere, as they tend to be more situational. For instance, a veteran might be able to put away a rookie using a certain maneuver, but that same move might barely phase another veteran, and therefore they'll have to use something much more serious in order to beat a more experienced foe. But going back to the previous example, as a rookie moves up the ranks, gaining skill and experience, eventually facing the same veteran yet again, the move that beat him the last time probably won't be able to get him again. See how it all comes together? And that reminds me of yet another brilliant hallmark of Shohei Baba's booking, because wrestlers didn't just get pushed arbitrarily. The decision on who to book and how came together with All Japan's story as a whole. The company itself has a narrative and a direction, and as such, key players were booked in certain positions. Up-and-coming stars would strategically position themselves to take over the spots of veterans as they left the company, with every single push being calculated to work together in perfect harmony. And everything working together in perfect synchronization and in a logical process is the path that many people feel is the exact road to take in order to become a king. Well, there you have it, an overall look at the very in-depth wrestling and booking style of Kingsroad. But what do you think? How do you feel about Kingsroad style, and what are some of your favorite All Japan matches? Let me know down in the comments. And don't forget to support me over on Patreon, just like Richard Lee. Richard, thank you so much for the support. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and as always, Dave knows.